Dive into 2024 with the CPU's dynamic campaign, set to energize Quebec and Ontario by reaching 75,000 homes with our empowering message. Every contribution you make is pivotal, driving this ambitious initiative forward and ensuring our information lands directly in communities via Canada Post. We extend special thanks to our dedicated CPU members, whose grassroots efforts amplify our reach. This campaign is your gateway to being part of a significant movement for change. Whether you choose to donate or volunteer, your participation is key to our success. Join us in making 2024 a victorious year for collective freedom and community action with the CPU.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another Saturday session. Just a word in French. Bienvenue tout le monde. Mais je vais revenir à 11h tout après cette émission en français. So today we're going to be, again, discussing in English. And what I'd like to show you is what I missed out on last Saturdays, which I couldn't produce you the document that is really important when people go to Parliament or to protest anywhere across Canada. And this is something that we've tried to spread throughout 2022 when the convoy was out, what I sent to the lawyers, what I sent to Parliament, what I sent to the city of Ottawa and the councillors, and to the RCMP, the OPP, and the city police of Ottawa. So anyways, again, before you undertake anything like that, you really need to make certain that you're able to produce the information, produce your letters and be prepared, send them out by email, make sure that they acknowledge receiving your email. If not, drop them directly at their offices so that they know that you're coming and that you know your rights. And your rights encompass a lot more than what is stated in the charter. Okay. And again, you've heard us talk about many things. But anyways, before we get on to that, what I'd like to do is do a little bit of housekeeping. We did that with the video, first of all. But before we get into that, a document, I want to be able to express an acknowledgement of our members' efforts for their continued support. And this, especially in regards to the advertising we're doing right now to try and reach all of the homes as much as possible. It's really imperative that this year be the year that we reach everybody, because in another segment that I'll be doing this week, I'll be showing you exactly the amounts of money that the countries are having to spend in order to be able to go to war. Okay, so we can stop all this beforehand if we all get together and do exactly what we ask you to do, which is sign your Citizens' Convention of Consent to place the Canadian citizens above our government as the final decision makers in regards to certain things that happens in our governance, so that the parliamentarians will have no choice but to hold a referendum by the people. And the referendum has to be done by the people, because right now we can't trust our government to do anything. So anyways, I'll get back to that after. But it's really important that our members, that we show appreciation for what they're doing, because what we do is not easy, and it's not easy for our members, because we're trying to reach every, at least in Ontario and Quebec for now, because it's so expensive to be able to reach everybody by Canada Post, because we're being censored everywhere. We can't even share our own stuff. When we share our own stuff in our own groups, it's censored. So imagine what happens with that. So, anyways, the best thing that we can do is to be able to spread the word. Do some door knocking. Reach everybody needs to reach their communities as soon as possible. This is the year to get that done. If we don't do this, we might end up in a war in 2025, and I'll show you the proof of that. Okay. So, anyways, so as we navigate through the intricate landscape of our mission, it's crucial to acknowledge the steady efforts put forth by many of you in distributing door hangers. And this is going to our members, okay? These physical outreach efforts are fundamental in making our presence known, particularly when faced with the challenges of censorship and platform limitations. A massive shout out to Michael, Anne, Lisa, Janine, Elizabeth, and you know who you are. Some people are doubled up here. Wendy, Emily, Claudette. We have 3 Claudettes. Okay, Jeanette, Pascal, Pierrette, Maria, Monica, Rhonda, Renee, Bill. We have 2 Bills who are spreading good to be spreading our information. We have one in BC. Thank you, Bill. He's gotten his 1,000 that he's distributing BC. So even though our advertising says mainly in Ontario and Quebec, it's the ones that we need to reach now because it's the biggest provinces. And then we have our members across Canada, that New Brunswick and that Nova Scotia that are sharing our information, our door hangers. So and all others we're also thanking these people too who have contributed to the door hanger distribution. Your commitment is the lifeblood of our grassroots movement, and it's the people that do the hardest work, reaching out, because it's not easy. So we've observed that our digital reach is hitting unexpected barriers, with our Facebook followers capped at 20,000 followers and YouTube subscribers at 5,000. Additionally, the reluctance of some independent media and the looming shadow of censorship laws highlighting the hurdles we face is spreading our message. These challenges may give an impression that power shift is not pushing boundaries or that our cause lacks appeal. So people may think that we're not doing much, but no, we're out there. It's just that a lot of you aren't seeing it. So, however, it's imperative to understand that despite these roadblocks, the essence and urgency of our project remain undiminished. Our message, the efficacy of the current partocracy system, and the absence of our collective rights must be heard more loudly and clearly than ever. While social media remains a vital tool, we must innovate alternative methods to awaken and engage the Canadian populace. Our initiative to contact cities, mayors, and councillors weekly is ambitious. We must gather thousands of email addresses across all provinces for more direct and personalized outreach. This colossal task demands more hands and minds, particularly in data collection and management. Because it's not, when you're trying, everybody's calling you, you have no time for anything else when you're having constant conversation on the phone and explaining things and, doing it more on one by one. And this is why it's so important for our members to come to our community that we've established, that we have there, because you have a quicker reach to me and to Genevieve and Richard and everybody. So now, hang on here. Okay, I just lost where I was. Okay. There we go. I had lost my spot there for a minute. Okay, so I'm going to start back this one. Our initiative to contact cities, mayors, and councillors weekly is ambitious. We must gather thousands of email addresses across all provinces for a more direct and personalized outreach. This colossal task demands more hands and minds, particularly in data collection and management. Special thanks go to Anne, Janine, and Wendy for their unwavering dedication. Okay, so right now these are the three people that are amassing emails, because all of the emails, it's hard because emails have changed, and then emails are blocked as well from service providers in regards to simple communications. And this is going to get worse for everybody. So when we think that our emails are reaching thousands, sometimes we have to watch, because they're not. So that we have to find other ways around that. So anyways, so they're working, these three people right now, their work is the cornerstone of our efforts to foster community engagement and propel power shift forward. Please offer your gratitude and moral support to these awesome members as they've undertaken a tedious, albeit necessary job. We warmly welcome new members from across Canada. With your support, we can create the greatest positive political change in Canadian history. And this is the year that we have to make this critical political change. Okay. So, the political change that we're talking about is not about, right-shotting government or removing government, or what it is. That the change that needs to be done is the final decision by the people. The people need to be able to decide what happens to our country, to our economy, and to our healthcare. And we are the ones who are responsible for the debt and are responsible for everything that our government does. And we have the political right, the legal right, the political and the legal right to do this through our solutions-based power shift to freedom, which is the Canadian People's Union. And it's in order to be able to make sure that we, the Canadian citizens and the Indigenous peoples, our voices are heard loud and clear, and that we have that veto power over our government once and for all. We should have had that in 1982, but our Canadian government stole those rights from us and only gave us minimal rights. Okay. So, and it's what's missing in our Constitution that is the problem. And the fact that the courts and the lawyers are not taught, the justices and the lawyers are not taught that, yes, international law that Canada has signed on to in regards to all of our rights, okay, our political and civil rights plus our human rights, are all embedded together, and cultural rights as well, are all embedded together into our Constitution, which should be, which is automatically included in there. And we can prove that through the what's transpired everywhere else, and even throughout what's happened within our own governance and what they've lied to us about. So it's time to stop the lies. It's time for the people to take our place before we end up in a war where bombs are falling on our heads. Now, don't get me wrong. We are already at war right now. We have been at war since the end of 2019. Okay, well, actually before that, but the end of 2019, they came full force. They're not, bombs are not falling on our heads, but they've injected us with them, Canadian citizens. Okay. So personally, I'm going to say it right now. I am not vaccinated, and I never will be. So to me, that's a non-issue. But the thing is we have to protect everybody that has been, all of our children from being more vaccinated, and with things that we don't know nothing about. So we need informed consent. I'm not for or against that, unless it's I'm only against that if it hasn't been proven totally effective, and that takes a huge amount of years. So for us to know what the reactions will be, because they're not a one size fits all. And what they've been given we Canadians, and tried to give the ones who are unvaccinated and force us into, is something that hasn't been proven, is lethal, and now it's all coming out. So it's really important that everybody knows about protecting ourselves from these types of things, and how we can try and get a better quality of life and try to remove what's been done from us. Okay. And right now, the reasons why all of this happened is because of all of our politicians in government, from municipal to federal, provincial, municipal, federal, and provincial. Uh, you know, all played a hand in this. Our healthcare played a hand in that, and there's underlying reasons why nothing is being done, because everybody's afraid. So, though, if you've participated in that against your will, and you know chose to feed your family instead of saving other people, or standing up for that, it's understandable to a point. And we need to all stand together. It doesn't matter who did what. Now's the time to all wake up and all stand together on the same side. So I'm just going to take a drink here for a second so I can finish this. But it's really important to get this information out. There's, when we're all at war against one enemy, and that's what's transpiring worldwide, we need to get together, and we need to set all feelings aside in regards to other things that annoy us or whatever. The point is that we're all human beings. We all love this country, this planet, and we need to stand together against the evils that are at play here. And it's not going to stop tomorrow unless we, the people, intervene. And what we're doing is an intervention. We have no choice. So we know we need to support everybody, and support one another, stand by one another, and stop looking at things that might not feel right to us. So we're all in this together. We need to stand together. So, in closing, what I'd like to say is, again, a warm thank you to everybody for supporting us all those years, and to with donations, or just even a phone call and an acknowledgement, because freedom fighters are everywhere. They're worldwide right now, and to be a freedom fighter is not easy, and it's I think one of the hardest jobs there is, in regards to doing it right, and to be able to win a battle of the minds, because right now the war we're undergoing is a silent war, and it's also a war for your minds. And we need to have everybody do some critical thinking, because everybody's being used. Gays, lesbians, trans, the woke is being used. The Jewish people are being used. I can't specify that enough. That really terrifies me, because when you look at the history and what transpired, who was manipulating everything, in a time where we were decolonizing the countries, they've recolonized Palestine. They tried to recolonize Palestine through the Jewish people, and using the Jewish people and putting them, attracting them to Israel, to try and make a new state there and take over the whole of the Palestine territories. These people were used. These people were placed in danger, and we need to really think about this. I mean, how do we stop the insanity of all that if we don't learn the history? If we don't learn, how can we comment if we don't really know what's happened, what's transpired, who's being used, not used? But right now, everything but the kitchen sink is being used against us all, to pit us one against the other. And that is their game. So now we must stand together, no matter what, against one enemy, and that's globalization. And that is also in regards to total control of this planet, our natural resources, and our minds, and our human bodies. So it's up to us to make a decision, and we need to make it quick. So in closing, let's remind ourselves of the power of collective action. Each contribution weaves into the larger tapestry of change we aspire to bring. We urge more members to step forward, lending their time and skills to this pivotal cause. It's now or never. Okay. So together we stand on the brink of a transformative era, poised to redefine our political landscape. And that's the beauty of this. Okay. It's not all doom and gloom. It's about getting together, respecting each other, and live and let live to a certain point, as long as you're not hurting anybody. um you know we need to focus on one issue, and that's saving our country and all Canadians and Indigenous peoples here in Canada, and our natural resources against the enemy, and also help other countries who are being attacked as well. So right now Canada is being implicated um in this thing against Israel, and what's happening in Israel against the Palestinian peoples, and what they've forced everything to happen. Well, it's not the people that are to blame, it is the governments, because no matter how much you have faith in your government, they are the ones who will make the decision no matter what you think in the end. Okay. So we urge everybody to explore the CPU. We've uh, rebranded our website, the cpu.ca. And if you can still use the powershift.ca, because a power shifter is a person who's actually signed their Citizens Convention of Consent, and is not a paid member of the CPU. The CPU, our paid members of the CPU then join us in our community, where we can have more one-on-one discussions, and we also have Zoom access there, as well as we go more in depth. I used to give longer videos and stuff like that, but now we're not going to do that anymore. There is just no time, because we need to focus on our members, going out into the communities, getting the communities together, because nothing will change in your city unless the people get together and take care of the mayors and councillors that are there, and let them know exactly how you feel. And it's not by just waiting for a savior to come, because if you really look at any religious beliefs, that fire is within you. Okay, nobody's coming back, because we're already here, and it's the people. We are the boots on the ground. Everything is within us. It's been given to us. So everybody who's waiting on, God or whatever, um, we have that energy within us, that faith within us, that love within us of other human beings and everything else that we treasure. And we need to move forward with that. Okay. Not to be too spiritual here, but we're the boots on the ground, and we need to react now. No need to wait on somebody else. We are the ones we are looking for. Okay. And you've heard this 1,000 times, said in different ways, but that's what it is. Okay. So, anyways, so now the message from myself, Dennis, and Barb is, we totally appreciate everybody. And Richard, we're the CPU board and CEO. And then we have Richard and Jen, which is our marketing team. And then we have Pierrette with us, and Rhonda and others, to help out. But again, we need as many boots on the ground for the CPU as our members. Our members need to become our boots on the ground for the CPU, because it'll take a lot of people to be able to make this happen. Legally, we need to have at least 51% of the major provinces of Canada involved here. And it's now or never. And everybody has to be on the same page, this very same page. So right now, we can't just rely on politicians to do it. We need to do the work, because even the politicians would need our support. And even if we backed up one group or another, it doesn't matter, because in the end, they are allowed legally. They do what they want. And if they're pressured, they're going to do what somebody else wants, not us. And we've seen that over the years. So anyways, to finish with that, I've taken care of this, and we just want to dedicate this time really for our members and the people who work hard to make sure that we get out there to you. So now I'm going to do a screen share to show you what I did not give you last week, and what exactly is happening is that, yes, Israel is now, there's 52 countries plus a couple of organizations that have actually, they're going to be meeting in 2 days to look at all of the human rights um, things that Israel has done against the human rights of the Palestinian people. And then Canada is going to be implicated in the a court case as well in regards to aiding and abetting Israel for years. Okay, in what they've been doing in Palestine. So Canada can't say, well, oh, it's just this time, we're feeding both sides. We're helping, also the Palestinian people. Well, sorry, but you've had your hand in the pot for a very long time. And what you've done before is coming back to haunt you. So, yes, and who's going to be paying for that? Canadian citizens. So, whatever Canada gets accused of, that's on us. We're responsible for that. Every decision they make falls back on us. Every time we sue the government, we're suing ourselves. So when I see people all happy about, we're going for millions of dollars here against the Canadian government, we're suing ourselves, people. And it's time that we control the treasury. Okay. The governments can manage it, but the bottom line is it's time for the people to control our treasury, our natural resources, to have final say on it. And what we're talking about is just veto rights. Okay. And to be able to have an avenue whenever our government goes rogue, whenever there's a theft in the thefts that they have done against Canadian citizens and the Indigenous peoples especially since 2020, is unbelievable. It's not even measurable. And now we're giving billions of dollars to other countries to the Ukraine. Why are we giving so much money to Ukraine for their people's pension funds when we have seniors starving here, having a hard time paying? In order to pay their rents, they're eating cat and dog food. And now cat and dog food is expensive. The more it goes, I mean, what do you buy? A can of Click or a can of cat food now? This is reality, people. We've got people on the street, yet we're bringing in more people from the outside. Yes, they need salvation too. But at the same time, we need to take care of our people who are already here and make sure we have housing for the ones coming in. So where do we draw the line? Where do we stop our government from doing what they're doing? The elevated amounts of fraud in this country is unsurmountable, and as well as thefts, drive-by shootings, bombs now in our country. Hello? That never used to happen. We used to have a safe country. And what they're doing now, it's easier to take the major countries and turn us all into third world countries. And they're doing this on purpose. We need to make sure that all the countries get together, all the peoples of the countries get together, and nobody would be suffering. Klaus Schwabs of this planet need to be locked up. Countries need to keep their own minerals for their own people, their own natural resources, instead of having countries like Canada, the US, and everybody else stealing their natural resources, giving them peanuts for their natural resources, and then giving that wealth to individuals. So anyways, I know I'm going off topic here, but I'm just going to look here, and I'm going to show you why I put down the 52 countries. Are actually in, where is this here? Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to do, I just lost this here. I'm going to do a screen share just to make sure. Okay, there we go. Okay, I don't know how well you're going to see this, but this is World Court to review 57-year Israeli occupation. 52 countries take part. I'm just going to get rid of this. 52 countries to take part in hearings of occupied Palestinian territory. Now, I got this the day it came out, and that's why I'm so happy that we're at the international level. So this is The Hague. An unprecedented number of countries and international organizations are expected to participate in the International Court of Justice. This is against the case against Israel for, how can I say, genocide is at the international, the ICJ, IJC, the International Justice. So there's two different courts. There's the criminal court and then the justice. So anyways, the ICJ is the criminal court. Okay, so they're going to be having oral hearings on Israel's occupation beginning February 19th, 2024. Human Rights Watch said today. 52 countries and 3 international organizations will participate in the oral proceedings, more than any other case since the world's highest court began functioning in 1946. So this is going to be the biggest case since the Nuremberg trials. So the broad participation in the hearings and the many written submissions reflect growing global momentum to address the decades-long failure to ensure respect for international law in the occupied Palestinian territory. The International Court of Justice is set for the first time to broadly, the ICJ, International Court of Justice, and then you have the ICC, I should say. So it is the same court, but eventually they have to go to the criminal court, because then once this is established, it goes to the criminal court. So this is set for the first time to broadly consider the legal consequences of Israel's nearly 6 decades-long occupation and mistreatment of the Palestinian people. Said Clive Baldwin, senior legal advisor of Human Rights Watch. Governments that are presenting their arguments to the court should seize these landmark hearings to highlight the grave abuses Israeli authorities are committing against Palestinians, including the crimes against humanity of apartheid and persecution. So you have the charge of genocide, which Canada is also going to be charged with. And then there's the crimes against humanity, which is something totally other, in apartheid and persecution. So again, this is going to be really interesting. The oral proceedings stem from a December 2022 request by the United Nations General Assembly for an advisory opinion by the court on the legal consequences of Israel's policies and practice of the occupied Palestinian territory. The court has the opportunity to address the prolonged occupation, to consider Israel's practices and policies violating international legal prohibitions against racial discrimination, including the crimes against humanity of apartheid and persecution, and to appraise the legal responsibilities of other countries and the UN to address violations of international law arising from occupation. Although the ICJ advisory opinions is non-binding, this is just an opinion they're giving, they can carry great moral and legal authority and can ultimately become part of customary international law, which is legally binding on states. Okay, so as per advice, that's not binding, but after that, it can become binding once the countries vote. So right now, you'd have the countries will have to go vote and present their case. So these proceedings will last 6 days, are distinct from the case brought by South Africa to the same court, alleging that Israel is violating the Genocide Convention amid the hostilities between Israeli forces and Palestinians armed groups that escalated following the October 7th Hamas-led attacks. The General Assembly first asked the ICJ for an advisory opinion related to the occupied Palestinian territory in December 2003. And then in July 2004, the ICJ's advisory opinion found that the route of Israel's separation barrier violated international law and that it should be dismantled. And this was since 2004. Nothing's been done. So Israel has been ignoring everything under the sun that it's been accused of. Now the poop is hitting the fan, okay, everywhere. So, wear your umbrellas, people. This is just the beginning, because what's happening now, and the reason why this is so important now, so is because of the fact that Israel is absolutely ignoring, and it doesn't plan on stopping until, uh, and they've got the support of the United States. They're getting more. They're getting a lot more money now from the United States. That was determined yesterday. I'll read that to you as well. But the United States is forking out a lot of money for the wars, and all of the countries under NATO were warned to increase all of their budgets so that they can get prepared for war in 2025 against Russia. And again, the Palestinian people, and also the five countries left that they do not control. And everything is about oil and gas. It's not about humanitarian being, saving these countries, the people from their governments or whatnot. This is all about the money. It's all about control. And we've seen this, and I saw this in 2008. And I knew that their end game was war. And as soon as they stop winning, and now they're losing the battle in regards to the pandemic, things are coming out. The poop is hitting the fan everywhere. Their last end game is war, and we can stop this and reclaim our rights, reclaim everything in Canada, get the other countries to do the same. And this is why we're working at the international level to get this done, so that we all do this in unison with each other's support. And then there's nothing that our governments can do to stop us. So I'm going to further read here. It says the December 2022 request to the court is wider in scope. The General Assembly asked the court to give its opinion on the legal consequences arising from the ongoing violation by Israel of the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination from its prolonged occupation, settlement, and annexation of the occupied Palestinian territory, including its adoption of related discriminatory legislation and measures, and on the legal consequences of the occupation and Israel's practices for all states and the UN. The request provides the court the opportunity to evaluate the situation 2 decades after its last advisory opinion on the occupied Palestinian territory, and provide guidance on the law, including the continued application of international humanitarian law and human rights law. The court could also assess Israel's conduct under international human rights law, including prohibition on racial discrimination and the international criminal law, including the crimes against humanity of apartheid and persecution. The ICJ, the International Court of Justice, adjudicates disputes between states and issues advisory opinions on the international law. It lacks jurisdiction over the conduct of non-state armed groups like Hamas. The International Criminal Court, ICC, by contrast, addresses serious international crimes allegedly committed by individuals, including members of armed groups. And this is why they have to get the opinion from the ICJ, the International Court, and then go to the Criminal Court. Okay. And in regards to this, so the ICC prosecutor confirmed that since March 2021, his office has been conducting an investigation into alleged atrocity crimes committed in Gaza and the West Bank since 2014, and that the court has jurisdiction over international crimes committed by all parties in the current hostilities between Israel and Palestinian armed groups. Human Rights Watch has documented that Israeli authorities are committing the crimes against humanity of apartheid and persecution against Palestinians. Given that the responsibilities of an occupying power towards the rights of the occupied population increase over time, Human Rights Watch has also called for Israel to provide Palestinians in the occupied territory with rights at least equal to those it grants its own citizens, in addition to the protection of international human rights law. Now, what they did historically is that the recolonized the Palestine uh, with the Jewish people. And this is where England, way back in 1917, with the Balfour Declaration, with the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds, is questionable. Are they truly Jewish? I would say no. That's just fiction, and because they're they don't care about wearing their little hats per se. Okay, but anyways, it's been. They place the people, to me, as far as I'm concerned, and what I've seen historically, it's like they brought the Jewish people there to disseminate, to control them and to decimate them in the end. And right now, this is what I'm seeing happening, and using them against the Palestinian peoples. So they were used by the Rothschilds and Al and all of their buddies, uh, to pit everybody against each other, and to have favors and to scream, the minute you say the truth about what Israel is doing, you're accused of being anti-Semite. Like, hello. The truth doesn't mean that you're being anti-Semitic. The truth is the truth, and people need to face up to it. And the thing is the governments of Israel are the ones who are guilty. The people are the ones. It's just like us. Are we guilty of what Justin Trudeau and all of the governments have done since Canada has been supposedly liberated? We're responsible for it. And the same as the Israeli people, we're responsible for our governments, but we have no control over what our governments do. And that's because of the political system of representative democracy, without having the rights to stop them when they're doing something that we, the people, find atrocious. So again, we have the power to do it this year, and it needs to happen this year. So we're asking everybody, join the CPU, come to the Canadian People's Union. We have the solution. We have all of the legal arguments to be able to stand in our rights and to make account with a justice system, with just judges that are not bought and paid for and controlled by others who terrify them, or so we need to, for the courts to come back, the justice to come back to reality, stand by the people, because they too are the shareholders and co-owners of the Crown of Canada. And we need to clean all this up. And if they don't listen, we need to go at the international level. And that's why we're there. We're making sure that we're covered all the way around. We need to come at them every which way we can. And we need Canadian citizens to stand by this. Otherwise, we lose everything. And it's not time to lose everything, but we have a final open window before they go crazy with their wars. We need to stop the United States from doing what it's doing. We need to stop the UK from doing what it's doing. And together, the people in some of the MPs in the UK are waking up. I've posted videos in our community. So if you want to see how more in depth we go, please come to the community, and then we can have more discussions there. We're going to be having live streams with our members only as well. We have those every week, Tuesday and Wednesdays. Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. For at least an hour. We might have to extend those eventually to be a little bit longer in regards to what we're going to be discussing, because we're going to be going more in depth with our members there. So that's where you have access to us. And then on Wednesdays, 8:30 p.m. in French. So I'm almost done here with this. So here I'll just finish here. The ICJ is composed of 15 judges elected by the UN General Assembly and Security Council for 9-year terms. Okay, 57 states and the international organizations have filed a written statement in the proceedings in July 2023, before the October escalation in hostilities. 15 states and the international organizations filed additional written comments in October and November 2023. Among those participating in the oral proceedings are Palestine, South Africa, Belgium, Brazil, the United States, which is kind of Another story: Russia, France, China, Namibia, and Pakistan, Indonesia, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, and the African Union. Israel submitted a written statement and chose not to participate in the oral hearings. But now the United Kingdom and the UK will be standing. Okay. And then our little hypocrites here in Canada, who like to do things and play both sides, pretend they're neutral, which is BS, because we can prove it, because we've been selling Israel bonds to send them more money, and you can save now up to $96,000 a year, tax free, if you invest in Israel, and that's so that they can buy and abuse, buy equipment and whatnot, and spread whatever they're doing, and terrorize innocent people. So now we need to look at saving the Israeli population against their own government, and the Palestinians, as well as us against our own country and every country that's involved in this global takeover, especially with the WEF. So there's work's got to be done, people, but we can do it. We can do it legally, and then we can also influence all of the other countries to do the same. Should Because it's the only solution. There's nothing else. There's nothing else that can be done. And other our politicians flip this around. But we need to stop the wars before they start. We need to stop the wars against the people, and we need to stop the physical wars that are going to be happening worldwide. Some will say, oh, well, it might be other countries. But right now, Canada and the United States are sitting at the wrong side of the table, and we're the ones that are going to be attacked. So it's very serious what's going on. It's not about scaring you. It's about what's written, and we'll be able to come back and explain more. So I'm going to explain more. We have our meeting Tuesday night with our members. I'll be explaining more of this. And otherwise, I'll come back next week and fill you in on what's been happening at the international level with this case here. So everything's been leading up to this. And if Israel wins, and the countries, thank goodness for these countries, excuse me, but if the Israel wins, we will have no human rights anywhere, not even in our own countries, because our government, the way that our constitution is written, the Canadian government and the provinces could just wipe away our rights, and there's nothing we can do about it until the next election. And even in those elections, we can prove that for the last 40 years, over 40 years, our governments have said one thing and done another. So, and the conservatives and the liberals are just interchangeable. They're in bed together. They're not going to change anything for us unless, they'd have to win right across the board. The conservatives are in Ontario. Doug Ford should be locked up behind bars. The corruption there is just phenomenal. So if you think the conservatives are going to save you at the federal level, think again. They talk a lot. They think they make Canadians think they're going to save us. No, the only ones who are going to save us is we, the people. And unless they come around, if I would see that all of the conservatives would sign their Citizens Convention of Consent and hand over the crown to put the Canadian citizens and the Indigenous peoples as equal partners in Canada, then I would believe them. Until then, I will never believe them. So anyways, we've got a chance to turn taxation into dividends, make everybody live in a more beautiful Canada, more beautiful world, worldwide. This solution is good for every country. We have all the same rights. Together, we can change this. This is the time. Okay, so I will let you go with that. And I'm going to do the stop sharing here. So where am I here? My studio. Okay, I didn't see the chat here, actually. I wasn't able to see what you were saying. So anyways, again, thank you for listening. Put the word out there. Sign your Citizens Convention of Consent. Children, as young as 15 and up can sign it. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, and you become a power shifter. Okay, but as well, we also need CPU members as much as possible, so that we can make the biggest impact with our solution on the world stage. Okay, and this is where we're at. This is where we need to be, because just just taking care of Canada here will do nothing with what's coming down the pike. And it's not about scaring everybody, but a physical war is being hashed. I will show you the numbers. This comes from the stats, what the NATO has ordered every country to do. And we'll be posting that for our members this weekend for them to see. And I'm not talking out of my hat. This is actual facts that we bring you. I also want to show you I almost forgot. I'm going to take a little bit of time, and the French people, I'm going to be just a little bit late, but I'll try and make this quick. I need to do another screen share before I go, because this is important. Okay, and where is it? Okay, right here. CCPR. Oh. Okay. That hasn't worked. Now, window. Okay, if I just show you this one, I'm not sure. Are you seeing this? Okay, I'm not sure if it's going down. I can't. I'm just going to go back here and see if I'm able to. It's because it's so small. Oops. Okay, you're not seeing that. Screen share again. Screen share. Not this one. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is the CCPR, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And whenever you do something, you say something, you have to say that you're practicing your when you're practicing your right to peaceful assembly, that you're practicing your putting forward your civil and political rights. Okay, and that will help you discuss anything that you want under the sun, because that is our right to do so. So here, I'm not going to go through the introduction, but there's something that I want for you to see. And this was actually done. I'm just going to go back to the date here. See, September 17th, 2020. And that's because they were seeing that the rights of the people were being abused in many countries. And that's why they did this. Okay. So here it says it's all about Article 21. I think I read that last week, but it says Article 21 of the Covenant protects peaceful assemblies wherever they take place, outdoors, indoors, and online, in public and private spaces, or a combination thereof. Such assemblies may take many forms, including demonstrations, protests, meetings, processions, rallies, sit-ins, candlelight vigils, and flash mobs. They are protected under Article 21, whether they are stationary, such as pickets, or mobile, such as processions or marches. But what this here would require reading for use. But anyways, it's in our community for all of our members to find. But there's something really important as we go down. And I didn't get to a chance to address this. But anyways, I think I went down to 17. Oh, right here, number 3. Okay, one of the most important I found, just going to go back here a little bit. Okay, a peaceful assembly stands in contradistinction to one characterized by widespread and serious violence. The terms peaceful and nonviolent are thus used interchangeably. In this context, the right of peaceful assembly may, by definition, not be exercised using violence. Violence in the context of Article 21 typically entails the use by participants of physical force against others that is likely to result in injury or death, or serious damage to property. Mere pushing and shoving or disruption of vehicular or pedestrian movement or daily activities do not amount to violence. Okay, I'm going to read this again. Mere pushing and shoving or disruption of vehicular or pedestrian movement or daily activities do not amount to violence. If the conduct of participants in an assembly is peaceful, the fact that certain domestic legal requirements pertaining to an assembly have not been met by its organizers or participant does not, on its own, place the participants outside the scope of the protection of Article 21. Article 21 would protect Tamara and everybody. And this is what I was trying to stress to the lawyers back in 2022. Collective civil disobedience or direct action campaigns can be covered by Article 21, provided that they are nonviolent. There is not always a clear dividing line between assemblies that are peaceful and those that are not, but there is a presumption in favor of considering assemblies to be peaceful. Moreover, isolated acts of violence by some participants should not be attributed to others or to the organizers or to the assembly as such. Thus, some participants in an assembly may be covered by Article 21, while others in the same assembly are not. So if some are disrupting, they will not be protected by Article 21, but the others are. Okay? So the question of whether or not an assembly is peaceful must be answered with reference to violence that originates from the participants. Violence against participants in a peaceful assembly by the authorities or by agent provocateurs acting on their behalf does not render the assembly non-peaceful. Okay? The same applies to violence by members of the public aimed at the assembly or by participants in counter demonstrations. So if you've got Antifa there and all hell breaks loose, or others that are co-protesting, the ones that are there that have the right to be there, it doesn't mean to imply that they are violent, and when it's somebody else. So again, the question of whether or not an assembly is peaceful must be answered with reference to violence that originates from the participants. Violence against participants in a peaceful assembly by the authorities or by their agent provocateurs, I put their agent provocateurs acting on their behalf, does not render the assembly non-peaceful. So when they plowed through the people, they had no right to claim that it was a violent assembly, okay? That it wasn't non-peaceful. The same applies to violence by members of the public aimed at the assembly or by participants in counter demonstrations. So if you have the convoy there and others are coming to attack, it's the ones that are attacking that are not protected by Article 21. Okay? Whether it's the government or somebody else. Now, the conduct of specific participants in an assembly may be deemed violent if authorities can present credible evidence that before or during the event, those participants are inciting others to use violence, as such actions are likely to cause violence, that the participants have violent intentions and plan to act on them, or that violence on their part is imminent. Isolated instances of such conduct will not suffice to taint an entire assembly as non-peaceful, but where it is manifestly widespread within the assembly, participation in the gathering as such is no longer protected under Article 21. So if you've got little different parts of violence that are happening, doesn't mean that the whole assembly needs to come crashing down. Okay? But if it's widespread, then yeah. And that's common sense. Now, the carrying by participants of objects that are or could be viewed as weapons or as protective equipment such as gas masks or helmets is not necessarily sufficient to deem those participants' conduct violent. So if you're assuming that the cops are going to use gas bombs at you, you can bring gas masks and they can't say, oh, well, you're planning on being violent. No, that's just protection against the government that is overriding their power, okay, and the police and everybody like that. So that has to be determined on a case-by-case basis, dependent on, among other considerations, domestic regulations on the carrying of weapons, especially firearms, local cultural practices, whether there is violence, evidence of violent intent at the risk of violence presented by the presence of such objects. So if they were using daggers for the use of using the daggers to hurt somebody, or if it's just a religious article, then they have to weigh case by case. Now, obligation of state parties regarding the right of peaceful assembly. The covenant imposes the obligation of state parties to respect and to ensure all the rights in the covenant. Um, Okay, Article 2:1, to take legal and other measures to achieve this purpose. Article 2, Paragraph 2, and to pursue accountability and provide effective remedies for violations of covenant rights. Article 3, Paragraph 3. The obligation of state parties regarding the right of peaceful assembly thus comprises these various elements, although the right may, in some cases, be restricted according to the criteria listed in Article 21. States must leave it to the participants to determine freely the purpose of any expressive content of an assembly. The approach of the authorities to peaceful assemblies and any restrictions imposed must thus, in principle, be content neutral and must not be based on the identity of the participants or their relationship with the authorities. Moreover, while the time, place, and manner of assemblies may, under some circumstances, be subject of legitimate restrictions under Article 21, given the typically expressive nature of assemblies, participants must, as far as possible, be enabled to conduct assemblies within sight and sound of their target audience. You can't say you got to go and have your assembly 20 blocks from Parliament, okay? They have to allow them to go where they need to go and to be seen where they need to be seen. So telling the people that they can't protest hospitals and you have to go away, or the schools and you have to be away from that, doesn't justify it. Okay. And that Article 22 kind of covers that. The obligation to respect and ensure peaceful assemblies imposes negative and positive duties on states before, during, and after assemblies. The obligation to respect and ensure peaceful assemblies imposes negative and positive duties on states before, during, and after assemblies. I hope you all heard that. The negative duty entails that there to be no unwarranted interference with peaceful assemblies. States are obliged, for example, not to prohibit, restrict, block, disperse, or disrupt peaceful assemblies without compelling justification, nor to sanction participants or organizers without legitimate cause. Moreover, state parties have certain positive duties to facilitate peaceful assemblies and to make it possible for participants to achieve their objectives. State must thus promote an enabling environment for the exercise of the right of peaceful assembly without discrimination and put in place a legal and institutional framework within which the right can be exercised effectively. Specific measures may sometimes be required on the part of the authorities. For example, they may need to block off streets, redirect traffic, or provide security where needed. States must also protect participants against possible abuse by non-state actors, such as interference or violence by other members of the public, counter demonstrators, and private security providers. This is one of the most important paragraphs in there, number 24. States must ensure that laws and their interpretation and application do not result in discrimination in the enjoyment of the right of peaceful assembly. For example, on the basis of race, color, ethnicity, age, sex, language, property, religion, or belief, political or other opinion, national or social origin, birth, minority, indigenous, or other status, disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity, or other status. Particular efforts must be made to ensure the equal and effective facilitation and protection of the right of peaceful assembly of individuals who are members of the group that are and have been subjected to discrimination or that may face particular challenges in participating in assemblies. Moreover, states have a duty to protect participants from all forms of discriminatory abuse and attacks, all of which the Canadian government and the City of Ottawa is guilty of. The right of peaceful assembly does not exempt participants from challenges by other members of society. States must respect and ensure counter demonstrations as assemblies in their own right, while preventing undue disruption of the assemblies to which they are opposed. States must, in principle, take a content neutral approach to counter demonstrations, which must be allowed to take place as far as possible within sight and sound of the assemblies against which they are directed. This too is important. Okay, they too can be seen, but the thing is they can't disrupt the first assembly to begin with, and neither can the first assembly can disrupt theirs. The possibility that a peaceful assembly may provoke adverse or even violent reactions from some members of the public is not sufficient grounds to prohibit or restrict the assembly. States are obliged to take all reasonable measures that do not impose disproportionate burdens upon them to protect all participants and to allow such assemblies to take place in the uninterrupted manner. See also paragraph 52 below. Okay. A function of transparent legal and decision-making system lies at the core of the duty to respect and ensure peaceful assemblies. Domestic law must recognize the right of peaceful assembly, clearly set out the duties and responsibilities of all public officials involved, be aligned with the relevant international standards, and be publicly accessible. States must ensure public awareness about the law and relevant regulations, including any procedures to be followed by those wishing to exercise the right, who the responsible authorities are, the rules applicable to those officials, and the remedies available for alleged violation of rights. Okay. State parties must ensure independent and transparent oversight of all bodies involved with peaceful assemblies, including through timeless access to effective remedies, including judicial remedies, or to national human rights institutions with a view to upholding the right before, during, and after an assembly. Okay, so I'm going to stop it here so that I don't waste any more time from the French people, because I'll have to take a few minutes in between. So here it continues on the role of journalists, human rights defenders. I think that I'm going to take the time to read this one. The role of journalists, human rights defenders, election monitors, and other involved in monitoring or reporting on assemblies is of particular importance for the full enjoyment of the right of peaceful assemblies. Those persons are entitled to protection under the covenant. They may not be prohibited from or duly limited in exercising these functions, including with respect to monitoring the actions of law enforcement officials. They must not face reprisals or other harassment, and their equipment must not be confiscated or damaged. Even if an assembly is declared unlawful or is dispersed, that does not terminate the right to monitor. It is a good practice for independent national human rights institutions and non-governmental organizations to monitor assemblies. Okay. State parties hold the primary responsibility for the realization of the right of peaceful assembly. However, business enterprises have a responsibility to respect human rights, including the right of peaceful assembly of, for example, communities affected by their activities and of their employees. Private entities and broader society may be expected to accept some level of disruption as a result of the exercise of that right. So tough luck, Ottawa. You need to suck it up. Okay. Given that peaceful assemblies often have expressive functions and that political speech enjoys particular protection as a form of expression, it follows that assemblies with a political message should enjoy a heightened level of accommodation and protection. Okay. Article 21 and its related rights do not only protect participants while and where an assembly is ongoing, associated activities conducted by an individual or by a group outside the immediate context of the gathering, but which are integral to making the exercise meaningful, are also covered. The obligations of state parties, thus the government, thus extend to actions such as participants or organizers, mobilization of resources, planning, dissemination of information about an upcoming event, preparation for and traveling to the event, communication between participants leading up to and during the assembly, broadcasting of or from the assembly, and leaving the assembly afterwards. These activities may, like participation in the assembly itself, be subject to restrictions, but these must be narrowly drawn. Moreover, no one should be harassed or face other reprisals as a result of their presence or at or affiliation with a peaceful assembly. Okay, now I will stop it here. Okay, so this document is extremely important to have on hand for the police to know, the city of Ottawa to know, the federal government to know. So again, very, very important information is in that document, and I've been talking about it since 2022. Well, 2021 and then 2022. So anyways, I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you for listening. And I'm going to take about 15 minutes. Je vais prendre 15 minutes. Là, je vais revenir à 11h30 pour celui en français, malheureusement. Alors, merci. Là. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening. And our members can see this document in our community. Thank you. And I'm going just to finish off with this again. As to why we need to all participate together. I'm just going to make sure here I've got the right one, that we participate together in saving this country. So have a great rest of the weekend. Be prepared. And if you have any questions, contact us at the cpu.ca, and we'll answer whatever questions that needs to be answered. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Attention, Canadians. Feel disconnected from our current political system? Join the power shift to freedom movement by the Canadian People's Union and be part of a bold vision for Canada's future. It's time to shift the political power to its rightful owners, the Canadian citizens and Indigenous peoples of Canada. Dive into our history, understand the need for change, and embark on the quest for true democracy. Are you concerned about our nation's commitment to human rights and self-governance? The power shift to freedom aligns with vital treaties and international laws, enabling us to claim our rightful place as collective head of state. We advocate replacing our partocracy system with a true democracy to ensure your voice counts more than party interests. When our national collective civil and political rights are respected, your influence on policies will be direct and impactful. Join us on this noble struggle to make every Canadian and Indigenous peoples a meaningful participant in our future. People 15 years old and over can sign the Convention of Consent and unite for our rights in the Constitution. Ready to be part of this transformative movement? Visit thecpu.ca for more details. Embrace the change and shape our future.